Hello and welcome to the fourth quarter storage provider public meetup. Thank you all for joining today. Our goal for today is to go to do a retrospective on all the exciting things that have happened across the global community, specific to storage providers over the last 3 months. We have an all-star cast of guest speakers today from people from across Protocol Labs and the ecosystem itself, giving you an up-to-date look as to all the exciting things happening within the Filecoin ecosystem. Note that this is a recorded session and will be rebroadcasted to YouTube later this week. However, if you are attending live, please feel free to use the chat for questions and answers. And some of the experts on the call today will be more than happy to engage with you there. Otherwise, we're going to keep going through this action-packed agenda, making sure we cover all the content that you need to be up to speed on what's happening across the Filecoin community. So with that, let's get started. All right. For those of you who don't know me, my name is Porter Stoll. I'm the head of storage provider communities, and I work with storage providers across the globe. Make sure that you get all the information and action items you need to be successful in your business. Again, we have a really exciting agenda today, which is going to start off with the master plan. We're going to cover some community topics, go over some platform and program updates, and then make sure you are up to speed with all the events going on across the Filecoin ecosystem, the Phil events that have happened over the last couple of months, and all the things that we have planned going forward in 2023. So I wanted to start off today with the master plan. We've had 2 major Phil events since our last public meetup, of which Juan Benet was very adamant and communicating our master plan. Our master plan is 3 steps: build the world's largest decentralized storage network, onboard and safeguard humanity's data, bring compute to the data to enable web scale applications. And what each of these presentations you're going to see today contributes to this master plan in some indirect or direct fashion. Part of what building the world's biggest decentralized network is we're doing a great job of that already. We have 3,900 storage providers across 44 countries. Filecoin is currently 1% of the global storage capacity, available at approximately 17 exabytes. And what I find most interesting about this chart is that since the top of the bull market for crypto, call it December 2021, we've only lost about 2% of our total miner participation, which I find extremely remarkable. And what that tells me is that our storage provider community is very committed long-term and resilient. And I'd be hard-pressed to find another community that has shown such resiliency over what has ultimately been a very tumultuous time within our overall Web3 community. From a network growth perspective, we're still growing 25% month over month, and our petabytes stored keeps increasing at an exponential rate. We've seen now we're up to about 325 petabytes of live data across 10 million active deals. Based on last year's number at the end of 2021, we've 8.5x'd the amount of data on our network since the beginning of the year. We're onboarding about 3.6 petabytes per day. We have a goal of 5 by the end of the year, and frankly, we feel very confident that that goal will be achieved. We're by far, in a way, the largest decentralized storage network. And we have more data than many public companies selling centralized storage. And we still have about 16 exabytes of capacity to fill with user data. So all this shows that we have, we're going in the right direction. The fundamentals of our network are going up and to the right, which is exactly what you want to see. And month over month, we're seeing the continued growth that gets us all excited across Filecoin Foundation, Protocol Labs, and hopefully gets you excited as well. And with that, I want to transition it over to Chris Garcia to talk about all the knowledge reports that have been released over the last 3 months. So Chris, over to you, sir.
Thank you, Porter. Thank you. Yes. So this particular quarter, we've had made a lot of headway with regards to different types of collateral and marketing materials for the ecosystem, especially as it relates to storage providers and making the case for Filecoin with your potential customers. We have an IDC report that was released a few weeks back that really went into good detail around why Filecoin is relevant, why decentralized storage is important. On the next slide, you'll see some metrics around that, or specific bullet points around the findings of that IDC report. Well, let me go back up to the first slide. Yeah, thank you. After me, Daniel Leon will talk about the Decentralized Storage Alliance, which was really big news in Lisbon. I'm looking forward to what Daniel has to say more about that, but it was just a big win for us. I'm very happy with the things that are going on there. Masari continues to be a very real evaluator of the Filecoin network, and shows all of the very similar stats that Porter showed a second ago in the previous slide around our growth. And they have really insightful things for us to know and to understand as part of the ecosystem. So highly encourage you all to look at that. And all these bubbles, by the way, are all hyperlinked. So when we share these slides with you, you'll be able to click on each of these bubbles and go to the reports that we're talking about. We did the IT press tour a few weeks back in Palo Alto with Colin and Stefan and Joao and several other people that we had there from Protocol Labs. And there we spoke with some Web2 analysts, Web2 press, that were able to understand and hear what we are doing in Filecoin and Protocol Labs and IPFS for that matter. So it was very interesting having a Web3 discussion with more Web2 leaning types of reporters. But it's important that we continue to do that and make sure that the Web2 community understands that we're here. And then we had three really insightful case studies that we did with Lucky Storage, Greater Heat, and Picnic. We have several more coming this quarter, but these are the ones that are done right now. And again, those are all hot linked within each of these bubbles. Next slide, please. So I mentioned about the IDC survey, some of the key findings that we have out here. There's several, I mean, dozens and dozens of findings, but these four really stood out to me in particular. I think that knowing that 90% of the potential market for decentralized storage would really consider us strongly if they understood that we were significantly less expensive and it can still offer the same or better performance. So that was an important finding. 85% would be really interested in understanding how they could increase the number of geographically distributed copies of their data being stored. So that was also speaks to the valid proposition that we have for these potential customers. 87% were at least somewhat concerned about lock-in, right? Having really punitive, if they wanted to move their data, really punitive penalties, for moving their data. So that's a big concern for a lot of potential customers. And then of course, 95% would really enjoy just knowing that their data is validated and that it is still in existence where they think it's going to be, and that it's being checked on a daily basis. So that was also very important. And then finally, I want to talk about real quick the SP sales kit that my team put together. Thanks to Ali Garnett and Nicholas Sutherland for making sure that storage providers have a sales kit that they can lean on, get battle cards, get email templates, get presentation decks. All three of those are the same link, by the way. So when you get the slides, you can click on those and be linked over to get this sales kit for yourself. But I think it's important that we continue to build this out, add more battle cards, add more presentation decks for you. We'll also have in the sales kit the link to all of our case studies, which is very important to offer to your customers. That's all I have. Daniel.
Great. Thanks, Chris. My name is Daniel. I'm on the network growth team at Protocol Labs, here to talk about the Decentralized Storage Alliance. So the Decentralized Storage Alliance, aka the DSA, is actually the first ever alliance dedicated to decentralized storage technologies. Why does this alliance exist? Well, decentralized storage technologies have not been widely adopted by enterprises just yet, and the barrier to entry to onboard both storage providers and data onto Filecoin still remains high. So our mission here is to enable enterprises to adopt and use decentralized storage, Filecoin, IPFS, and libp2p in their day-to-day business operations. We really want to bridge that gap between Web 2 and Web 3 and help enterprises transition from Web 2 to Web 3. And we want to do this by creating tangible objectives and deliverables. We want to create standard specifications. We want to create reference architectures. We actually already have an enterprise architecture working group within the Alliance that's stewarded by AMD and Seagate and works on creating reference architectures for the broader SP community. We want to create educational materials and best practices, and we really just want to advance and improve decentralized storage as a whole. So we plan on doing this by creating multiple working groups, and we plan to launch this at Phil Lisbon. Next slide, please. So we had commitments from Protocol Labs, Seagate, EY, AMD, and Filecoin Foundation. We actually launched this at Phil Lisbon a couple of weeks ago, and saw some really great traction from different media outlets, both in Web 2 and Web 3. This was picked up by MSN, TechRadar, Yahoo Finance, CoinDesk, Cointelegraph, and we actually even broke a record on social for the amount of Filecoin mentions mentioned across different social media outlets. So this is sort of the founding member group, and they're working on creating new working groups within the Alliance. And then we also plan on releasing a second batch of both new members and new working groups over the next coming months.
27 million impressions in its first week. Very exciting.
Yeah. So just last thing here, if you're interested in learning more, if you're interested in signing up, please visit our website, brand new website, dsalliance.io. As I mentioned, we're looking at bringing in new different people from the ecosystem, both storage providers, hardware vendors, system integrators, different pieces of the entire ecosystem as a whole to create working groups and really tackle different problems that enterprises face when adopting decentralized storage technologies.
Hey guys, good to be on with you. I am, as you can see, not Alex Altman. He is unfortunately under the weather today. My name is Bruce McKnight. I'm Director of Technical Operations over here at C. Next slide, please. So the major purpose I'm on the call today is to talk about our very exciting announcement that we made at Phil Lisbon. Alex was there. He made the presentation about our partnership with the Atlas project at CERN. For those of you who aren't as geeky as I am and have been following the LHC, the Large Hadron Collider at CERN is on the border of France and Switzerland, is the largest particle accelerator in the world. And particles are smashed together, and scientists from all over the world actually study data from that particle collider. The Atlas experiment is one of those kind of community of scientists that study that. And in recent years, the LHC has been upgraded to become high luminosity, which means that it is producing petabytes per second of data, of which the Atlas project is kind of cherry picking some of that data to generate tens of petabytes per year. There is another upgrade that is coming over the next 3 years that will substantially up that capacity. And so the CERN in general, but the Atlas project specifically, has been looking at storage alternatives for all this data that is being provided. And we have been working with them for just over a year to integrate with their systems and allow for that data to be onboarded onto Filecoin. This has not just been a commercial agreement. There's also been some development work that has happened to integrate their systems with ours through our API. Next slide, please. So as we can see here, Alessandro is kind of the coordinator for Atlas, and he has been elemental in the furthering of this deal. The initial discussion that we've had with them is around 10 petabytes of storage. There is likely to be far more of that over the coming years. We are in the final stages of that integration process that I talked about earlier between our API and their ecosystem. that works to not only seamlessly ingest data from their storage, but also allows scientists from all over the world to access that data on an ongoing basis. Although the data is generated, as I said, in Europe, it is shared amongst scientists all over the world. So there has been a fair bit of development work to integrate into Rusio, which is the data management product that they have, and FTS, which is the ingress-egress product that is used to transfer that data in and out. Next slide, please. Yeah, so that is the deal as it currently stands. We are expecting to actually start sealing data over the next few weeks. If you would like some more information about that, reach out to us in any of these ways through our website, through email, or through social. Thank you, guys.
Thank you. Very exciting update.
Okay.
Welcome, UC.
Hi, everybody, and thank you for having us. As a brief introduction, my name is UC, and at Palladium X, we provide capital to storage providers and also help enable token holders to earn infill. So the problem that we are hoping to solve is the resource mismatch problem on the Filecoin network. And as many of you know, Filecoin is a resource-intensive network that requires resource dedication from all participants. So on one hand, we have token holders who require the hardware, labor, as well as the know-how to put tokens to work. And on the other hand, we have storage providers who require more fill to stake and grow on the network. So overall, we do see here a mismatch between the know-how as well as capital, which may hinder overall growth. Next slide, please. Thank you. So the solution that Palladium X presents is to enable more token holders to earn on their fill, and also, of course, accelerate growth of the Filecoin SPs. And I wanted to briefly take this opportunity to walk through how Palladium X works. So as you can see on the diagram, we first provide fill as capital to our SP partners, and then our SP partners would stake collateral, commit storage, and compute to the network. And then afterwards, we would be able to split the profit, the protocol rewards, with our SPs as well as our capital holders via Palladium X. So basically, to highlight some of our key areas of focus, which we believe are our core competencies, which number one is we really focus on relationships with SPs, and we want to be partners to enable growth together. And number two, we are Filecoin native, so we only provide our services on the Filecoin network, so we are very dedicated to Filecoin. And just wanted to also highlight some of the characteristics of our deals. So number one, we do profit sharing, and we also offer deal by deal solutions that are very flexible versus perhaps traditional origination loan related kind of formats. We are also really into transparency as well as consistency. So overall, we want to solve the mismatch problem via efficient allocation. And we want to find a solution that benefits both the SPs as well as token holders while helping the ecosystem to grow. Next slide, please. So if you are an SP and are interested in learning more, we would really encourage you to visit our website and fill in the storage provider form. And if you have any other questions about ways to partner or contact us, please do contact us and reach out via the contact section of the website. Thank you.
Take it away, Hida. Can't hear you.
Sorry, guys, I was still on mute. Thank you very much for having me. My name is Hida Hoogland. I'm the CEO of Decent. It is a storage provider and a data center located slightly above Amsterdam. We used to fully focus on being an SP, but now we are focusing on being one of the largest data preparations on the Filecoin network. Next slide, please. Thank you. Yeah, it's the same intro. So we are trying to process large amount of volumes towards capable storage provider in the globe. Most of them are located in the Asian region, a few really large ones in USA, and only a handful in Europe. And at the moment, we are transferring all our prepared files to at least 10 of those around the globe. Next slide, please. Thank you. So there's a few issues people face when they trying to onboard consistently and at large scale. One of the main issues is inadequate throughput. People just don't have the network. At the receiving side or at the sending side, that really doesn't even matter, because most of the times what we see when things fail is because people do not have enough bandwidth available. So one of the other issues we face is the lack of consistency when it comes to large data sets. Some sets are really easy to pack and send. Other sets are billions of small files which need a lot of compute to sort and pack to store up into the Filecoin network. So that's a big issue too. The third thing we see is just a lack of knowledge on hardware and software. There's a lot of things happening before you can fluently seal or send a lot of data over the network. And lastly, the thing we also see is data cap requests are a struggle. And even when you get your hands on a few of those, getting those at scale, like tens or hundreds of petabytes, that is a real issue at the moment. So our endpoint is located in Amsterdam. Our data center is located in Amsterdam, and all of our storage as an SP is also located in Amsterdam. We do have been expanding, and we are trying to make 2 endpoints in Australia and 1 in USA to get a better throughput to those regions to send more of the prepared files. And our main location in Amsterdam has about 80 gigabytes of upload and download speed at the moment. So how did we solve the issues I just described? How do we get control over these issues? Well, first of all, we run our own BGP endpoint. We have full control over our network. We decide routes. We are simply set our own internet service provider, which is really important. The second thing is we invested a lot of time and effort into improving the packing tools that PL offered. We first started off with our own tools. Later, PL provided some toolings which we changed and added and rewrote to purpose fit our own hardware to make things run fluently and not to have to babysit every few hours to see if things are still operational. We also invested heavily into hardware side. We added about 20 pips just for storing car files. We added a lot of network connectivity as internal and external, just to facilitate the huge volumes that we are trying to push. And lastly, all those things combined, everything we do is we trying to improve the data throughput, from finding the data source to getting the data cap, to trying to get all those files from an AWS bucket or another origin location into our DC, packed and then shipped out. Everything is focused on maximizing the throughput. So how much did we do, let's say, last 6 months? One of the most awesome things I saw just 2 weeks ago was, well, we hit 700 tips of processed volume daily. That's about 35 gigabytes going in and going out every second for a full day, which is looking at the amount of people we work with is pretty awesome to facilitate. We prepared a little bit over 7 petabytes of raw deals onto our storage at the moment, and we're trying to expand that by a lot. We also dispersed those files, and we shipped more than 25 petabytes around the globe to other SPs who are capable enough of handling these volumes. And what we're trying to aim for next year is about 1 petabyte of daily throughput as a data preparer on the network. So yeah, the main focus is let's accelerate. We need more data. I'm really happy to see the daily onboarding ratio on Filecoin speeding up from a few hundred tips to, I think we just hit under 4 pips of onboarding today, and we should move data faster and enable more providers to handle this.
Great, thanks, Hida. I think I'll jump in. For those of you who I haven't met before, my name is Caitlin. I work at the Filecoin Foundation and I lead protocol governance for the Filecoin ecosystem. I'm really excited to give you sort of a quick and informal update on what our team is working on right now, specifically following FIP36 and some of the community retros that we've recently led. Next slide, please. All right, so for those of you who have been involved, particularly in the different working groups, you are very aware of FIP36. This was a very contentious FIP that our community was asked to consider in advance of the V17 network upgrade. That network upgrade, as you may know, is scheduled to go live on mainnet on November 30th. However, FIP36 was rejected by the Filecoin community, and it was actually the first FIP that ever was rejected by the Filecoin community. As a result of that process, it actually shed a lot of light on places where we are actually able to improve and allocate new resources to supporting network governance overall. And we are currently in the middle of a really large Scrum session and 2-week sprint, planning all of the new resources that we now are aware of are going to be very necessary in order to manage the influx of FIPs and their complexity that the network is now seeing. So as a very brief recap, over the past couple of weeks and months, traveled in person to a lot of different events to talk specifically with storage providers to get their feedback on this process, on the FIP itself, and to probe sort of materials and products that may support them as they lend their expertise and communicate needs around network governance issues. We've held sessions and panels in Singapore, at the recent ESPA cohort in Las Vegas, and also at Phil Lisbon. We fielded an async and anonymous community survey, which I want to thank many of you for participating in. And most recently in Lisbon, we also held an in-person retro and feedback service for internal network stewards to make sure that everyone is on the same page in terms of understanding community member needs around FIPs, and also planning better ways to communicate and prepare for really big changes that network is going to be expected to shoulder now and in the future. Next slide, please. So as mentioned, we are really heads down right now trying to take all of those insights and learnings and translate them into products. Like I said, just an informal update for now before you begin to hear a lot about these things in the coming weeks and months. But as some of you may know, we are currently working on a public case study that will share all of sort of the timelines and experiences we've gathered, as well as lessons learned related to FIP36. We are also going to be creating a Filecoin roadmap for governance specifically, as well as a knowledge base for better knowledge and resource management. Both of these things are going to take a long time to perfect, but we hope to have beta versions available for the community in January, and hope for storage providers in particular to be able to provide feedback about how we're sharing information and how useful it is for them. We also are going to be reforming and changing some of the procedures around governance, introducing new types of FIP categories and creating clear standards and expectations for participants, both community members and auditors. And we are hiring very rapidly to try and build up capacity within our team. Most interested in hiring communications associates, actually, who can stand up and provide us with better ways to provide updates right now via Twitter and newsletters, which were 2 things that storage providers specifically asked for. Next slide, please. So like I said, we are really focused on actually getting these work products across the finish line right now. So not much more to share with you at the moment. If you want to stay up to date, it's always PhilFips on Slack or the Filecoin project FIPS repo on GitHub, of course. But I also want to flag that we have a new project manager named Lucky, whose largest project at the moment is specifically finding better and more consistent ways to communicate products, opportunities, and knowledge needs to storage providers. So I hope all of you, if you haven't had a chance to meet him yet, soon will, and he will be the one who will be sharing more ways to engage with us and where to find these products and tools once they ship. Thank you.
Hey, everybody. I'm Adi Shadam. I'm the product lead for FVM. And I'm sure a lot of you already heard about what we're doing, but just wanted to spend a couple minutes to give you guys an overview of what we're shipping so far later this year and early next year. So I'm sure you guys have heard of the Filecoin virtual machine, but just to recap, the FVM project delivers on-chain programmability to the Filecoin network. This is the first time, really, we're doing a massive upgrade, which allows folks to create contracts, user-defined contracts, and Solidity, as well as other languages to create programmable storage on-chain. What this enables is a whole host of possibilities. It's a huge deal because it enables developers to customize what Filecoin can do for its users besides storage and retrieval. So developers can now build not with Filecoin, but also on Filecoin as a platform. I'm personally super excited by a lot of the stuff on this slide. So data DAOs, liquid staking, under collateralized lending to SPs such as yourselves, creating on-chain voting, L2 commitments for broader kind of decentralized compute, as well as DeFi for storage as well. So I just want to do a deep dive with two specific items that I'm personally psyched about and think have a lot of impact on how SPs are going to think broadly. The first actually is related to the work that UC and her team at Palladium X are doing, just phenomenal, but basically being able to enable SP loan markets. There's a huge opportunity for token lenders to put the resources at work with the Filecoin economy, helping SPs access fill for storage collateral and offering interest in exchange for that. Unlike other chains, these loans can be under collateralized because we have access to SP history and SP performance over time, and we know whether or not an SP is likely to pay back the loan that they can take. SPs are also benefiting here substantially because they can expand their operations much faster as a result of some of these loans. These new smart contracts give token holders access to yield built on top of lending. So think liquid staking, think insurance markets. All that really comes from being able to create a DeFi lending platform that kind of automates some of the work that some of our partners have already been doing inside Palladium X and other initiatives inside the PL ecosystem. Another thing I'm really excited by is data DAOs more broadly. Basically, FVM for the first time allows a bunch of individuals to come together and pool resources to curate, preserve, and incentivize the storage of a collection of data that they find personally meaningful. So one example is the Wikipedia corpus. Another is basically all publicly crawlable information on the internet. These are massive troves of data that people are passionate about archiving, storing, and referring to in the future. And Filecoin, and specifically the FVM, can create communities around data sets that people are passionate about. The hope is that this can make data stored in Filecoin not only exponential, which is already what it currently is, but super exponential, because suddenly you have a massive inflow of data from communities and organizations that are passionate about keeping that data on chain for the foreseeable future. I'm super excited by that impact it can have on SPs and the network more broadly. There's one more slide actually, but I think I just added it this morning. Basically, we'd love to keep in touch with you guys through Slack. We're just on FVM, the public channel FVM, and feel free to ping me on there if you have questions or comments or ideas as we get closer to launch. Thank you, everybody.
Hey everybody, I am João Fiedeiro and I'm the PM lead for client growth. I'm responsible for ensuring that we have the right tools and processes and deal flow for the mass adoption of Filecoin as it pertains to data onboarding, especially large data clients. I'm going to talk a little bit about some of the stuff that we have been up to as a team. So the next slide, I'm going to feature two big things that that are very near and dear to my heart. First of all, we have worked with developers in the ecosystem to completely rebuild a tool for large data onboarding called Singularity. On the top right, you can find information about this tool at singularity.storage. It is an end-to-end solution for data onboarding to Filecoin, ideally at a petabyte scale. It is powering Slingshot v3, and it is a modular tool set that comprises both the necessary features for data preparation, as Hide was talking about earlier, but also deal execution. And this is hopefully the first of many steps towards something that is enterprise grade for many, many large customers to adopt Filecoin in 2023. On the bottom left, alongside this, we have put a lot of work into analytics and really understanding the ecosystem. So what you're looking at there, for example, is on a month to month or week by week cadence, how many clients are actually using the data, using the protocol to onboard data, how much data have they onboarded in their lifetimes. And it has really allowed us to set some really aggressive but realistic goals in terms of our large data clients. For context, we have in the past couple of quarters managed to almost double the proportion of clients that have onboarded over 100 terabytes of data. Today, about 10% have onboarded over 1 petabyte, and we're hoping for that to be a much larger proportion in the future. So stay tuned for a externalization of a lot of this data as we harden the data set and make sure that it is verifiably correct. We will externalize this so the ecosystem can actually track on a client level exactly who's onboarding data and how their journey is progressing. In the next slide, I also want to call out another exciting launch, which is the launch of dataonboarding.filecoin.io. It is a completely new website aimed at doing a couple of things. Number one, we really want to do a much better job of articulating the value proposition of Filecoin so that you as storage providers or clients perhaps watching this can really understand how this works and why it's useful and why decentralized storage is interesting and why it's an option that you should consider. It also has a dedicated section for solution discovery. We know that the distinction between a protocol and a product is not always obvious. There are lots of amazing builders in our ecosystem building excellent solutions that leverage the Filecoin protocol, right? Web3 storage, Estuary, and others. And so we hope that clients coming in, hoping to learn more about Filecoin, can really understand how to actually make use of this and onboard their data more seamlessly. The last piece that I also want to highlight is also the case studies. We're putting a lot of effort into marketing this and next quarters going forward, just to make sure that we really highlight these exciting developments with very large clients that are onboarding their data and really sort of put the spotlight on them so that we can all do, we can really all kind of help with mass adoption of Filecoin. Next slide, please, Porter. Again, I just want to touch on the numbers here. Just as I alluded to, we're really looking at the proportion of users, of clients, verified data clients that are onboarding very large data. At this point, we have over 1,000 verified data clients who have actually onboarded data. And thanks to a lot of efforts in the ecosystem, both in terms of infrastructure, tooling, Fil Plus, and other processes, this is really growing very, very quickly. We are setting our OKRs right now, but we're targeting a really aggressive expansion. We are hoping to get to 2 exabytes of data onboarded to the network by the end of 2023. So we will rely on all of your collective efforts to achieve that really aggressive goal. Next slide, please. The last thing I want to highlight is the data onboarding working group. As you will see on the data onboarding website that I just talked about, dataonboarding.filecoin.io, we really want to create a space for data onboarders, for tool builders, and for SPs to share best practices on how to onboard data more seamlessly to the Filecoin protocol. And so I encourage you to join our Slack. It is data-onboarding-WG, WG standing for working group. It is an open public channel on Slack. We have our first monthly meeting happening on December the 14th. And the next slide, I outline a couple of things that I'm really hoping to get out of this. Share best practices in data onboarding, discuss the best path to market for different verticals, share tool feedback and ideas. Thank you, Clara, for posting the URL in the chat. And I'm really excited for this to be an open forum for even more collaboration across all these different folks, from SPs to data preparers to data onboarders, data owners, all these folks who care deeply about really building better bridges for Web2 data owners. Thank you so much.
All right. Hi, everyone. My name is Simon. I focus on client tooling, and I'm here with Phil, who focuses on notary tooling, and we both work on the data programs team at Protocol Labs. There's a lot that the team is doing to improve the Phil Plus program, and we'll briefly discuss some of the things that we're doing. Next slide, please. So first, we have ePhil Plus, or Enterprise Filecoin Plus. The pilot kicked off not too long ago. Just to give a quick explanation, this is a program that's designed to enable data owners with private data to utilize Phil Plus. With the launch of the new program, the ePhil Plus team is working closely right now with data owners to go through this pipeline and to make sure everything is running smoothly. If you'd like to stay engaged or learn more about this program, you can join the Phil-Plus-Enterprise-Working Group Slack channel. Next, we have Trust and Transparency. This is a working group to discuss about issues related to data cap abuse and to flag fraud trends. Currently, the team is working on building a dashboard for visibility on how data cap is being used and potential tools to track data cap abuse. If you'd like to learn more, you can join the working group Slack channel, and you can also join the calls on Tuesday bi-weekly at 8:30 a.m. or 5:30 p.m. Pacific time. Next slide, please. On the client onboarding side, the team is currently working on a new Phil Plus site to provide a central location for anyone to learn about Phil Plus. You can find all the information relating to Phil Plus on this new site, and will allow data owners to apply for data cap through this new site. The team is aiming to launch the first version of the new site by December 13th. And I'll hand it off to Phil.
Hey guys, so wanted to talk a bit about what's happening with the notary community. Currently, it's an exciting time. We are having the notary election, the fourth one. We updated the template and rubric for this notary election. So if you're an existing notary, we kindly ask you to please reapply to the notary elections. Super exciting time because we have upwards of 100 notary applications now. That's like a 30% increase from like what we had last time. And then going forward, as the notary community grows, we want to find ways to hold people accountable. How do we make sure that each notary issues data cap in a trustworthy and efficient manner? To do this, the team has decided that we want to create a website, a publicly available website where notaries can hold each other accountable by looking at their behavior and statistics. We aim to launch this Q1 of next year. Next slide, please. Yeah, so now on to the more urgent matters. Currently, as I said before, the notary elections are running. We kicked this off in Phil Lisbon, and today is the last day to apply as a notary. So if you want to apply as a notary, please submit a notary application by the end of the day. We won't be a stickler on the deadline. As long as you give it in at the end of the day in your time zone, it should be fine. How this would work afterwards is that we would, Carrie and I from the Phil Plus governance team would review these applications between 16th of November and December 9, and then they will be announced. The notaries, final set of notaries will be announced on December 9. Afterwards, there will be an onboarding process from the 12th to 23rd of December. More will be talked about this in the next phase of the election. And if you want to apply, the links are here. And if you have any more questions specifically to the notary election, you can ask Carrie or I in the Phil Plus Notaries channel. If you have more questions in general about any of this, Simon, I, and of course, the rest of the Phil Plus governance team would be more than happy to help in the Phil Plus Slack channel. Yeah, handing over to Daniel.
Thanks, Phil. Hi, everyone. Daniel here again, but to talk about sealing as a service. So we recently did an analysis to look at just how much hardware is locked in the network. And what we found was if we look at all of the different tiers of SPs and how much hardware has been contributed to the network up to date, there's around $2.5 billion worth of hardware locked into the Filecoin network. And a large portion of that hardware is made up of compute. So compute CapEx makes up a large portion of total hardware CapEx. And so this means that it can be very difficult for existing SPs to increase their ceiling rate. It's difficult for new SPs to onboard to the network. And it's actually also difficult for SPs that have spare ceiling capacity to make use of that spare ceiling capacity. The hardware is expensive and it can be difficult to access. So Ceiling as a Service aims to accelerate the onboarding of data to the network by, for the first time, separating compute from storage. So a storage provider does not have to do both the compute and the storing. There can be storage providers that just do the storing, and there can be storage providers that specialize in just doing the compute piece of sealing data to the network. Ultimately, with Ceiling as a Service, we hope to create a two-sided marketplace for Filecoin compute. And so the first step of doing this is introducing sealing APIs into Lotus. If you look at this diagram, this is the new Sealing as a Service architecture that Lotus will be releasing in v1.17.2. And basically it allows for external Sealing as a Service or a Snark as a Service to connect to Lotus and allow for someone to do PC1 or PC2 or C2 or all of those processes outside of Lotus for the first time. So if we look at the roadmap here, where we are right now is in this alpha phase. What we've done up until now is we've worked with the Lotus team, we've worked with Sealing as a Service providers, and we've really tried to align on a design for these APIs that would work as a generic interface for all Sealing as a Service providers. We then worked with Lotus to actually get that implemented. And so now we're moving into this public alpha phase where we hope to have a Sealing as a Service software that will integrate with those new Lotus APIs. And so we're creating a sidecar and a CLI that we hope to open up to the public in the next few weeks. We're going to be creating a Sealing as a Service working group that will pilot Sealing as a Service with a small group of SPs. We also want to create a public page for Sealing as a Service that will allow for all parties in the ecosystem to track the work that's being done there. Once we feel like we have a successful pilot in place and we've figured out all the different adjustments that need to be made to either the APIs or the sealing software itself, we plan on moving to GA and then opening it up to the Sealing as a Service waitlist that we've created. So please sign up for this Sealing as a Service waitlist. We plan to create a manual two-sided marketplace to start with the people that have signed up, but then over the course of the next year, we plan to grow that marketplace and ideally automate a number of the processes for connecting Sealing as a Service users that have that would like to increase their sealing rate with Sealing as a Service providers that have spare compute. So if you're interested in being a user provider, please definitely sign up for the Sealing as a Service waitlist. We plan to reach out to every single person that signs up for the waitlist. If you're interested in increasing your sealing rate, if you have spare sealing capacity, sign up and we'll reach out over the next couple of months to keep you updated on any developments to the software, any upcoming business opportunities, and really ultimately to connect you into the two-sided marketplace that we'll create for this Sealing as a Service offering. Thank you.
Hello, my name is Wes Floyd. I'm a product manager on the Bacalhau project, and the name of the project is a play on the term Portuguese word for COD, or compute over data. And if you'll take us to the next slide, that is exactly the problems that we're trying to solve. We are specifically looking to help Filecoin storage providers also become compute providers and offer compute services to their end users. And then for the end users, we're trying to solve some problems around adding compute capability to low-cost storage, avoiding egress costs so that users no longer have to move their data out of Filecoin into a public cloud like AWS, Azure, or Google Cloud. They can do their processing where the data lives in Filecoin. And at a high level for storage providers, we want to partner with each of you to be able to offer these additional services to your end users as you're each going out to different verticals, healthcare, financial services, nonprofits, et cetera. We want to be a value add so that you can offer a more robust platform to your end users. And then we're also working on some incentives to hopefully align with the Phil Plus program. That's very early stages there, but that's an activity that we're working on. And then if you'll take us to the next slide here, I'll give everyone just a very quick walkthrough of what our architecture looks like today. We intend to support Docker images and WASM binaries as first-class citizens. So as a user, I would have some workload that is packaged in one of those runtimes, submit it to the Bacalhau network. And I'll give a caveat to this image. This is an extremely high-level image, not super deep technically because there's a lot of complexity in the covers, but I will reference some files that live in Filecoin or IPFS. Those compute nodes that live in the Bacalhau network will very often be storage providers that have additional capacity or dedicated compute capacity in their data center. It could also be folks who have additional spare capacity and want to donate it to the Bacalhau network. If you'll click out one or two more times on this slide, thank you. The Bacalhau network will automatically resolve whether that file lives native to the storage provider. If not, there'll be a negotiation process. There's a lot of additional work going on in the covers around managing unsealed data versus sealed data. So please reach out if you have specific questions. I'll give you our contact information in the next page. But at the end of the day, the user should get back information around the CID for their job. We're trying to make it as easy as possible, CLI first, and then an SDK to be released soon. Primarily targeting data processing workloads, large data processing workloads, video transcoding, image manipulation, and the like. We've got a bunch of examples. So thank you for that. If you'll take us one more time to the next page here, please visit our documentation at docs.bacalhau.org or our main website to get more information. We've got some fun machine learning examples. We've got some scientific and research-oriented examples. Reach out to me if you have questions. I've got my contact info there. We are also on the Filecoin Slack server under #Bacalhau. And we have a dedicated channel specifically for storage providers, which we are eager to welcome you in the community as also compute providers. And so please reach out to us on that channel as well if you're interested. We're in the very early beta phases of rolling this out, but we welcome all feedback. Thank you.
Hello, Patrick Woodhead here, Technical Program Manager for Retrieval Markets at Protocol Labs, and I'm going to speak quickly about Saturn because I think we're running out of time. Next slide, please. So Saturn is an initiative we're working on in the Retrieval Markets Lab, alongside a bunch of other things. What is Saturn? Saturn is a decentralized CDN in the Filecoin retrieval market. There are a few other teams in the Protocol Labs network who are also working on similar networks, similar decentralized CDNs, DCDNs for Filecoin content, and Saturn is just one we're working on inside Protocol Labs. So in Lisbon a few weeks ago, we launched an initial version of the Saturn network, and during that presentation, the tech lead, Ansgar, he made it available for anyone to join the network. So as of a few weeks ago, anyone can now set up what we're calling Saturn L1 nodes, and they can do so just by heading to the GitHub repo and just reading the instructions and setting themselves up and start contributing to the network. We are already at about 250 points of presence in the network across the world with great geographical coverage, and that is comparable to the number of points of presence in Cloudflare's network. So we're pretty happy with the uptake already. We're continuing to measure the time to first byte and the bandwidth that we're sharing. And if I just go to the website now, currently we're looking at an average time to first byte of IPFS content of 320 milliseconds, and we are serving about 158 million requests each day. A lot of those, though, are currently synthetic requests. By synthetic, I mean that we are actually controlling the flow to the network so that we can test it. Yeah, next slide, please. What does the future look like for Saturn? As I say, we've launched this public network of L1 nodes, and by December, we'd also like to have what we're calling L2 nodes in a test net. So L1 nodes, they have quite strict hardware requirements, whereas the L2 nodes, they're much more lightweight and can be run even on people's home computers. We have got a lot of questions we need to answer about the L2 nodes and how they really fit into the network. So that's a big area of exploration over the upcoming months. By March, we want to have scaled the L1 network and to have really tackled this time to first byte globally. So we've got a really performant network and reliable network that people, content publishers, websites can start to integrate with. Towards the middle of next year, we're looking at this L2 launch or beta network launch. And also looking to link up L1 nodes to or to these L2 nodes, and then towards the end of the year, linking up L1 and L2 nodes to storage providers, which I guess is relevant to this conversation. Getting that retrieval reliability up with the retrieval deals for the storage providers is a big area of work over the next upcoming months, working with the Bedrock team as well as the retrieval markets team to work on that flow. Next slide, please. So yeah, anyone can get themselves up and running we claim in 5 minutes. You head to the link https://saturn.network or scan the QR code in the bottom right to get yourself set up. And you can also reach out to us on Filecoin Saturn Slack channel or the Retrieval Market Slack channel to find out more. Thanks very much.
All right. Hello, everyone. This is Mark Johnson calling in from Egypt. I am an environmental solutions architect for Filecoin Green. For those that are unfamiliar with our work, our dual mandate is to, one, make the Filecoin network verifiably sustainable, and two, to build the world's best tools to measure and reduce environmental impacts of all kinds. This quarter, we have been building, and I'm really excited to talk to you about 2 new projects. So on the next slide, the first one is CO2.storage, which is a free decentralized storage solution for environmental assets. And when I say environmental assets, I mean things such as renewable energy certificates and carbon offsets. And at its core, CO2.storage really addresses the issue of data integrity by enabling carbon offset providers to define their own data schemas and to store this data on Filecoin and IPFS. And this process creates a system of transparency for carbon offsets that traditional storage solutions in the Web 2 world really cannot address. We've been overwhelmed and incredibly fortunate to have a number of active early users and partners, including the 16 largest carbon offset providers in the Web3 space, who are all dedicated to tokenizing carbon offsets to ensure that their data is transparent and verifiable. On the next slide, we've also been hard at work on creating and testing a comprehensive auditing process for all SP activity data, which will allow SPs interested in making strong sustainability claims to publicly verify the associated data. And since we built and tested this auditing process, we're now on to building the reporting portal, which is an application that enables easy uploading of all the relevant data to substantiate the configuration and performance of SP operations. And while the portal is under construction, we are actively taking requests from SPs who are interested in working through our auditing process to decarbonize their operations. And now on the last slide is a number of links and resources that showcase ways and you can get involved in our work. As I mentioned, if you are an SP interested in working with us on the auditing process, the reporting portal, please do reach out. You can check us at the Phil Green Slack channel. You can go to the Filecoin.energy energy use dashboard to check out your estimated energy use. And of course, if you're interested in getting connected or connecting your operation to renewable energy, there is a form that you can fill out with all your contact information so that we can connect your operation to renewable energy and continue to decarbonize your operations. And that's it for me.
Awesome. Thank you, everyone, for such enlightening presentations. As I said before, there's just so much excitement going on within the community. And there is no better place to see all these people and projects in action than our Filecoin events. We've had 2 major Phil events since our last public meetup. We had Phil Singapore, which was over 2,500 attendance. It was sold out. We had an action-packed day of at the Marina Bay Sands Convention Center around Token 2049, where storage providers were able to intermix with investors, developers, lenders, hardware providers, and all the people in the ecosystem. I say what our Phil events are extremely good at is giving everyone who attends the one-on-one time with the people that they need to seek out within the ecosystem, allowing them to have like those really critical conversations. And that was really the overall theme that we've got from Phil Singapore and from Phil Lisbon. What I thought was interesting about Phil Singapore is we did our first Phil VC event where it was kind of a Shark Tank-like format where people from across organizations from across our ecosystem were able to pitch to a numerous number of investors who were in attendance, of which some are getting funded as part of their seed or series round as we speak. Again, I encourage you all to look at these Phil events as a way to see what's going on and learn from the community. There's just, again, there's so much going on. It's hard to keep track of all the announcements, all the updates, all the progressions. But at the end of the day, these are the one designed to be your one-stop shop to have all the conversations you need to be successful. Frankly, as we look back on these two events, it's just so overwhelming, the amount of enthusiasm, participation, press, social media, and attendance we've gotten from these events. And I'm looking forward to even bigger things in 2023. Most importantly, I'd love for you all to stay connected. We have our Twitter handle, we have our Slack groups, we have our event schedules. These are your one-stop shops to make sure you're keeping pace with all the major announcements, whether they're case studies, whether they're events or opportunities. These are the channels that we most frequently update to make sure that you are getting involved where it worked for you at your convenience. So please join these if you haven't already. And with that, we are 1 minute over time. Thank you. We hope you have a great end of the year. Happy holidays to all of you from across the globe. And we look forward to an exciting Q1 of 2023 and more updates about the storage provider community to come. Thank you all and have a great day.